The story opens with the Galactic Council in complete panic. 3 peaceful alien races, the bird-like avians, the crystal-based silicon, and the aquatic depths, face total extinction from a savage enemy known as the Hunters. These brutal aliens consume entire worlds, leaving nothing but death behind. The Council had tried everything. Their combined fleets were crushed. Their best weapons failed. Billions had already died across dozens of star systems. In their desperation, they remembered old stories about a young species from a small blue planet called Earth, stories that most dismissed as myths. Humans, they had heard, were different. While most species evolved from prey animals, humans came from something else entirely. They were persistence hunters who chased their food until it died from exhaustion. They were pack hunters who worked together to bring down creatures 10 times their size. Most terrifying of all, they seemed to enjoy conflict. The Council's emergency session was filled with fear and doubt. Elder Kryn of the Avians spoke first, his feathers trembling. "We have no choice. Send the distress call to Earth. If the stories are true, they might be our only hope." Commander Vel of the Silicon race vibrated with uncertainty. But what if we're inviting another predator into our galaxy? What if humans are just as dangerous as the Hunters? "Then we'll face that problem if we survive this one," replied Admiral Flux of the Depths, her gills fluttering with stress. The transmission was sent across space to the small blue world. It carried the weight of desperation, the plea of the dying, and the slim hope that somewhere in the galaxy there existed beings capable of fighting monsters. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity had just achieved faster-than-light travel. They were still new to the galactic community, having made contact only years before. Most humans were busy exploring nearby systems and establishing colonies. General Kane received the message at Terra Command. As he read the desperate plea for help, something ancient stirred in his chest. It was the same feeling his ancestors had when they heard the howl of wolves threatening their tribe, or the roar of lions stalking their children. The message was simple. Unknown horrors consume our worlds. Billions are dead. We have tried everything. Please help us. We offer all we have in return. Kane called an emergency meeting. The room filled with Earth's military leaders, scientists, and politicians. The debate was intense. Some argued they weren't ready for galactic war. Others said it wasn't their fight. But Kane knew better. "Gentlemen, ladies," he said, standing before the holographic display showing the affected systems. 3 species are facing extinction. They've asked for our help because they've heard what we are, what we've always been. He paused, looking each person in the eye. "We are the descendants of hunters who killed mammoths with wooden spears. We are the children of warriors who built empires across continents. When something threatens the innocent, we don't hide. We hunt." The vote was unanimous. Earth would answer the call. Within hours, the largest military mobilization in human history began. Ships launched from every major spaceport. The First Fleet, Second Fleet, and the experimental Seventh Fleet all received orders to depart for the affected regions. But this wasn't just about military might. Humans understood war in ways the peaceful alien races never could. They knew that sometimes, to protect the innocent, good people had to become monsters. They knew that predators only understood one language: overwhelming violence. As the human fleets jumped to faster-than-light speed, General Kane sent a reply to the Galactic Council. It was short, direct, and would later become legendary across the galaxy. Message received. Help is coming. Prepare your people for what they're about to witness. When apex predators go to war, even allies should be afraid. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. They had asked for help from a species they barely understood. Now they would learn why. Throughout Earth's bloody history, humans had never been a prey. The story establishes the stakes, introduces the desperate alien races, and shows humanity's immediate response to the crisis. It hints at humanity's predatory nature while building tension for the coming conflict. The ending sets up the next part, where humans will arrive in alien space and begin their campaign against the hunters. Asterisk, the human fleet arrived at the edge of avian space like a storm breaking over calm waters. 300 ships of various sizes materialized from hyperspace, their dark hulls bristling with weapons the peaceful aliens had never seen before. Admiral Ross commanded the lead fleet from his flagship, the U's Predator. As his ships took defensive positions around the last avian colony world, he opened communications with the panicked aliens below. "This is Admiral Ross of the United Earth Forces. We received your distress call. Show us where they are." The avian commander, Wing Leader Pip, could barely speak through his terror and relief. His people had been fighting a losing battle for weeks. Half their worlds were already consumed. "Admiral, they're in the outer system. 12 hunter vessels. They've been toying with us, destroying our ships one by one." Ross studied the tactical display. The hunter ships were massive, brutal-looking things covered in armor and weapon ports. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met anything that could fight back. "Wing Leader, pull all your ships back to the planet. Create a defensive perimeter around your population centers." "But Admiral, we can't abandon the fight." "You're not abandoning anything. You're getting out of our way." The human fleet advanced toward the hunters with methodical precision. These weren't the desperate charges of the alien defenders. This was calculated, patient stalking. Humans had learned warfare from 10,000 years of killing each other. They understood timing, positioning, and the psychology of fear. The hunters noticed the approaching human ships and broadcast their usual intimidation message. It was a mix of roars, threats, and images of consumed worlds. They had used this psychological warfare to break the spirit of countless species. Admiral Ross listened to the translation, then turned to his communications officer. "Send them our response." The human reply was different from anything the galaxy had heard before. No pleas for mercy. No attempts at negotiation. Just a cold, professional statement. "This is Admiral Ross. You have 10 minutes to surrender or retreat. After that, we will demonstrate why humans are the apex predators of Earth." The hunters responded with fury and disbelief. How dare these small newcomers threaten them? They charged forward, confident in their superiority. That was their first mistake. The human fleet didn't meet them head-on like the other aliens had done. Instead, they split into hunting packs, using their superior speed and coordination to surround individual hunter ships. It was the same tactic humans had used to hunt woolly mammoths: isolate, surround, and attack from all sides. The first hunter ship found itself facing 30 human vessels at once. Its massive weapons, designed to destroy cities, couldn't track the smaller, faster human ships. Within minutes, concentrated fire from multiple angles punched through its armor. The hunter ship exploded in a brilliant flash, its debris raining down on the others. The remaining hunters suddenly realized they weren't facing prey. They were facing other predators. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had witnessed. The hunters were brutal and powerful, but they fought like solitary predators. Humans fought like a pack. They shared information instantly, coordinated attacks across multiple ships, and adapted their tactics in real time. When one human ship was damaged, others moved to protect it. When a hunter ship showed weakness, every nearby human vessel concentrated fire on that spot. It was organized violence on a scale that made the watching aliens tremble with both relief and terror. Captain Stone commanded one of the destroyer groups. His voice crackled over the communications as his ships closed in on a wounded hunter vessel. "This is for every innocent life you took. Fox Squadron, target their engines. Wolf Squadron, hit their weapons. Let's show them what happens when they threaten our neighbors. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, all 12 hunter ships were destroyed. Not a single human vessel had been lost, though several were damaged in the aftermath, as human. Repair crews worked with ruthless efficiency. The avian defenders could only watch in stunned silence. They had been fighting these monsters for months, losing dozens of ships for every hunter they damaged. The humans had arrived and eliminated the entire force in a single engagement. Wing leader Pip finally found his voice. Admiral Ross. How did you defeat them so easily? Ross looked at the tactical display, showing the debris fields where the hunter ships had been. His expression was grim, but satisfied. Wing leader, your people evolved from creatures that flew away from danger. It's a good survival strategy. But humans evolved from something different. We evolved from the things that other creatures flew away from. He paused, watching as his ships formed up for the next battle. And now the hunters are about to learn what that means. Word of humanity's first victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The impossible had happened. Someone had not just survived an encounter with the hunters, but had completely destroyed them without losing a single ship. In the HFY Galactic Council chambers, the three species watched the battle recordings with a mixture of awe and growing unease. Elder Kryn's feathers stood on end as he observed the methodical way human ships had surrounded and eliminated their enemies. "Look at how they move," whispered Commander Vel, her crystalline body resonating with nervous energy. "They don't fight like defenders. They fight like like hunters themselves." Admiral Flux of the Depths studied the tactical displays with growing understanding. They isolated the strongest enemy ships first. They didn't try to save their damaged vessels. They used them as bait to draw hunters into killing zones. This isn't just military strategy. This is predatory instinct refined into an art form. Meanwhile, Admiral Ross was already planning the next phase of operations. Intelligence reports showed hunter forces spread across 17 star systems, consuming worlds and enslaving populations. The aliens expected him to defend the remaining colonies. Instead, Ross was planning something the galaxy had never seen before, a coordinated offensive campaign. "Gentlemen," he addressed his fleet commanders via holographic conference, "we're not going to play defense. We're going to hunt these bastards down system by system until there's nothing left of them." Captain Stone raised a concern. "Sir, the alien governments are expecting us to protect their remaining worlds. If we leave them to go on the offensive, Captain, the best defense is making sure your enemy can never attack again. We protect their worlds by eliminating everything that threatens them." The human fleet split into 3 hunting groups, each targeting different hunter concentrations. The strategy was simple but brutal. Find them, surround them, and destroy them completely. No survivors, no mercy, no negotiation. The first target was a system where hunters were systematically consuming a silicon colony world. The aliens had evacuated most of their population, but millions of crystal beings remained, trapped on the surface as living resources for the hunters. Captain Aina led the assault force of 60 ships. As they emerged from hyperspace, they found 8 hunter vessels in orbit, slowly draining the planet's population. The hunters had grown complacent, believing no force in the galaxy could challenge them. They were wrong. "All ships, execute Formation Delta," Captain Aina commanded. "Wolverine Squadron takes the high orbital approach. Shark Squadron comes in from the dark side of the planet. Tiger Squadron holds the middle distance and cuts off any retreat." The hunters detected the human approach and began to form their traditional battle line. It was a formation that had worked against every other species, a wall of overwhelming firepower that crushed opponents through sheer brutality. But humans didn't attack the line. They attacked the spaces between the ships. Now, Ana whispered .60. Human ships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons coordinated by advanced targeting computers that had been originally designed for hunting pirates in Earth's asteroid belts. The concentrated firepower struck the hunter formation at its weakest points. The first hunter ship lasted 18 seconds. The second managed 23 seconds before its hull cracked open like an egg. By the time the remaining hunters understood what was happening, half their force was already destroyed. The surviving hunters tried to retreat, but the humans had anticipated this. Captain Ana's voice was cold as winter as she gave the final order. No survivors. These things feed on intelligent life. We end this here. The battle was over in 47 minutes. 8 hunter ships became expanding clouds of debris. The Silicon Colony world was saved, its remaining population extracted by human rescue ships that worked with the same deadly efficiency their warships had shown in battle. But something unexpected happened during the rescue operations. As human soldiers helped evacuate Silicon civilians, the crystal beings began to understand what they were seeing. These humans weren't just warriors, they were protectors. The same instincts that made them deadly hunters also made them fierce. Guardians of the innocent. One young Silicon being, barely formed, approached a human soldier. Through translation software, she asked the question that would echo across the galaxy. Why do you fight so hard for people you barely know? The soldier, a veteran named Tom, knelt down to the crystal child's level. His answer was simple, direct, and would become legendary among the surviving species. Because someone has to, and we're very good at stopping monsters. As news of the second victory reached the council, Elder Kryn made a troubling observation. They're not just defeating the hunters, they're hunting them. What happens when they're done with our enemies? What happens when the apex predators have nothing left to hunt? 3 weeks into the human campaign, the hunters finally understood what they were facing. These weren't the soft, civilized species they had been consuming for decades. These were rival predators, and they were losing dot in the deepest reaches of dark space. The Hunter Supreme Council gathered for the first time in generations. Massive creatures that had devoured countless worlds now faced the unthinkable defeat. The small ship pack hunters had destroyed 47 of our vessels, growled Hunt Leader Grix, his scarred hide bearing the marks of 1,000 conquered worlds. They fight like we do, but better. They coordinate. They plan. They learn from each engagement. The eldest hunter, ancient beyond measure, spoke with a voice like grinding stone. Then we adapt. We become better predators than they are. We stop playing with our food and start killing with purpose. Meanwhile, Admiral Ross was discovering something that chilled him to the bone. As human forces pushed deeper into hunter territory, they began finding the remains of consumed worlds. Not just destroyed cities or conquered populations, completely. Drained planets where every form of intelligent life had been systematically harvested. Jesus Christ, whispered Dr. Maya, the fleet's xenobiologist, as she studied the reports from the latest liberated system. Admiral, they don't just kill for territory or resources. They consume intelligence itself. The neural tissue, the brain patterns, they're feeding on consciousness. Ross studied the horrific data with growing fury. These weren't just conquerors or even simple predators. They were something worse. They were parasites that fed on the very thing that made life precious. Doctor, how many worlds have they consumed completely, based on stellar surveys? At least 300 worlds over the past 50 years. That's billions of intelligent beings, Admiral. All of them slowly consumed while still alive. The revelation changed everything. This wasn't just a war of territory or survival. This was extermination. Either the hunters would consume every thinking being in the galaxy, or they would be stopped completely. Ross called an emergency conference with his fleet commanders. The holographic images of 30 captains filled the command center, each one representing the most experienced warriors humanity had produced. New intelligence confirms what we suspected, Ross began without preamble. The hunters aren't just killers. They're consumers of consciousness. Every world they take, every population they capture, is slowly eaten alive to feed their expansion. Captain. Stone's face was grim. Sir, that means every day we delay, millions more die in the worst possible way. Exactly. Which is why we're changing our strategy. No more system-by-system liberation. We're going to their home territory and ending this at the source. The plan was audacious beyond anything attempted in galactic history. Rather than continue the careful campaign of liberation, human forces would strike directly at the hunter breeding worlds deep in their territory. It was a strategy only humans could consider, using their entire fleet as bait to draw out every hunter vessel, then destroying their ability to reproduce. Captain Aina voiced what everyone was thinking. Sir, that's a suicide mission. We'll be outnumbered 50-1 in their home territory. Ross smiled, and it was the smile of an apex predator who had cornered his prey. Captain, humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by playing it safe. We became dominant because when something threatened our survival, we hunted it to extinction. The human fleet began its final approach to the hunter core systems. Every ship was equipped with enough firepower to crack a moon, and every crew member understood they might not be coming home. But they also understood what was at stake. As they prepared for the largest space battle in galactic history, the three allied species watched with growing anxiety. The humans had saved them, but at what cost? These apex predators had arrived as saviors, but they fought with a ruthlessness that terrified even their allies. Elder Kryn raised the question that haunted the council. What if we've traded one set of predators for another? What if humans are just better at hiding their true nature? The answer would come soon enough. Deep in hunter space, sensors detected the approaching human fleet. Every hunter vessel in the galaxy began converging on their core worlds. The final battle would decide whether intelligence would survive in the galaxy, or whether one species of apex predators would replace another. Admiral Ross sent one final message to the Galactic Council before entering the deepest hunter territory. If we don't make it back, remember this. Humans chose to die fighting monsters rather than live watching innocents suffer. Whatever we are, we chose to be guardians. The message ended, and the human fleet disappeared into the dark heart of hunter space. The Battle of the Dark Nebula, as it would later be called, lasted for 3 days and forever changed the galaxy's understanding of warfare. When Admiral Ross led his fleet into the heart of hunter space, he found not just their military forces, but something far worse. Massive breeding stations, where captured beings from hundreds of species were kept alive as food sources. The sight that greeted the human fleet was beyond comprehension. Orbital platforms the size of moons contained billions of prisoners in various stages of consumption. The hunters hadn't just been conquering worlds. They had been farming intelligence like cattle. My God, whispered Captain Stone as the sensor readings came in. There are still survivors down there, millions of them. Ross faced the hardest decision of his military career. The hunter fleet was massive, over 600 vessels surrounding their breeding worlds. A direct assault would likely destroy both the human fleet and the prisoners they had come to save. All ships, battle formation Omega, Ross commanded. We're going to do something that's never been attempted before. We're going to save every prisoner while destroying every hunter simultaneously. The tactic Ross employed had been theoretical until that moment. Using their ship's superior speed and coordination, the human fleet began a complex dance around the hunter positions. They weren't trying to destroy the enemy ships. They were herding them away from the prisoner platforms. It worked because Humans understood something about predators that the galaxy had forgotten. Even apex predators had weaknesses, and the greatest weakness was pride. The hunters couldn't resist the challenge of facing the humans in direct combat, especially when the humans seemed to be offering themselves as targets. As the hunter fleet pursued the seemingly retreating humans, specialized rescue ships slipped through the gaps in their formation. Human marines stormed the breeding platforms, finding horrors that would haunt them forever, but also millions of survivors who had given up hope of rescue. "This is Rescue Team Alpha," reported Commander Lisa over the communication channels. "We've got them. Avians, silicon, depths, and species I don't even recognize. They're weak, but they're alive." While the rescue operations continued, Admiral Ross led the hunter fleet into the nebula itself, a region of space where sensors were limited and maneuvering was treacherous. Here, human advantages in coordination and tactics would be maximized. The final battle was unlike anything seen before in galactic history. 600 hunter vessels against 300 human ships in a maze of stellar gas and debris. For 72 hours, the two apex predator species fought with everything they had. The hunters fought with the fury of creatures who had never faced real opposition. The humans fought with the cold precision of a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. In the end, it wasn't the size of the ships or the power of the weapons that mattered. It was intelligence, coordination, and the absolute refusal to give up. When the battle ended, the hunter fleet was completely destroyed. But the cost was enormous. Of the 300 human ships that entered the nebula, only 97 emerged. Over 200,000 human personnel had died to save the galaxy from the hunter threat. As the surviving human fleet limped back to Allied space with millions of rescued prisoners, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The impossible had been accomplished. An entire predator species had been driven to extinction by another predator species. But the victory raised uncomfortable questions. In the weeks that followed, as human forces helped rebuild destroyed worlds and integrate rescued populations, the three allied species began to understand what they had witnessed. Humans weren't just warriors or even predators. They were something unique in the galaxy, apex predators who chose to protect rather than consume. They had the same hunting instincts as the hunters, but they had directed those instincts toward protecting the innocent rather than devouring them. Elder Kryn, speaking at the memorial service for fallen human warriors, finally understood. "We asked for help from predators, and they came. But these predators chose to hunt monsters instead of prey. They chose to be guardians instead of conquerors." Admiral Ross, now bearing the scars of 3 days of continuous battle, accepted the galaxy's highest honors on behalf of his fallen comrades. His speech was simple and direct. The galaxy is safe not because humans are the strongest or the smartest. It's safe because when apex predators choose to protect instead of consume, nothing in the universe can stand against them. We didn't come here to rule or conquer. We came because someone called for help, and that's what humans do. As the ceremony ended and human forces began their journey home, the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the only thing that can stop a monster is another monster, one that chooses to fight for others rather than itself. The stars were safe, guarded by apex predators who had chosen to be heroes.